I want to talk about a project that we're actually funding through the Back to Baselines program that I mentioned before. So this project is really asking the question, if we were to apply visible eco fees at the point of sale, how would consumers react? So one goal of EPR is to provide, I suppose, funds at the front end to cover the management of the waste that our industry creates, because they're burdensome to deal with. But these eco fees can either be invisibly applied to a product, or they could be shown as a line item at the point of sale, so consumers might be aware of what they're paying. So that's what we mean by visible fees. And it's a project really led by QSA, but they asked me to present it, so there you are. It's proper collaboration. Right, so it's two phases: a qualitative phase, which is talking through focus groups to a very carefully selected, fairly large number of people about their habits, and a second phase, a quantitative phase, which will involve thousands of people. So it's really just started at the moment, this project. The first thing I would say is, what can we learn from other industries, where industries are telling consumers information about the impacts, let's say, of their purchasing decisions, either on their health or on the environment. So you can see here the classic traffic light system for food. Just to entertain myself on the way down the train, I was looking for some food that was at least 4 reds, but I was typing sausages in and all sorts of things, trying to find something that was 4 reds, but I managed to get 3 and an orange, and I think it was a supermarket dark chocolate. And I was thinking to myself, okay, lots of reds, but would really people not buy it because it had 3 reds? Would they just buy it anyway? But the point is, it's signalling that there's a sort of hierarchy or a modulation of impacts attached to their purchasing decisions. In that case, not a financial impact necessarily, because there's no eco fees attached. So, would consumers in our industry be bothered if they got that type of signalling at the point of sale? If they didn't buy less, maybe they just shifted to greener products, who knows? In some industries, you can see here on the right-hand side for flight duty, basically carbon costs, was essentially showing customers that there are eco-modulated fees depending on the level of negative environmental impact of their decision at the point of sale. So, they can see what they're being charged. Or, I wasn't aware of this until Gerard told me. First of all, I've been hypno-catted this morning. The hypnosis has affected me, and you can see on the left, that's the Leeds City Council version. But we've been paying, I think, roughly for 17 years, what is effectively eco fee, EPR fees on electrical items that we buy. So those are applied, and they're applied for different categories, and we pay them to deal with the waste management of that product at the end of life, but they're not kind of communicated at the point of sale. People just pay them. But does that therefore provide much incentive to make them any better? Right? You just pay a flat fee. Doesn't really affect a consumer's behaviour because they don't even know they're paying it. So I also had a quick look at the academic data. I can't go through all of it here, and you wouldn't want me to because you would be bored stiff, and it is nearly lunchtime. But there is some work, and this is from Canada, just showing the willingness of consumers to pay fees. And it's dependent on their perception of environmental harm. So if they think the waste is going to be harmful, if their perception is the waste is going to be harmful, apparently, and we all have to be careful of questionnaires, they would be prepared to pay more. So for those of you who haven't brought your microscope today, corrosives and flammables are right at the bottom here as being the most damaging and also the most likely for consumers to be happy to pay fees. Question is, we had this sort of approach, where would individual textile products fall? Because remember, there is no such thing as one textile product. There's a range of different products, from medical devices all the way up to items of fast fashion. So carpets, floor coverings, where would they fall? But what we also see, if we look at the academic data, consumer preferences to pay when the fees are visible depends on the type of product as well. So in some cases, if you look at on the left-hand side, if you look at those products that are perceived to have the lowest environmental harm, visible fees in blue don't really care. Sorry, where are we? I'm looking. I've just looked. The code has been changed handily on formatting. But if you look, there's no preference actually on the left-hand side. But there is a preference for visible fees when there's perceived to be the highest environmental harm on the right-hand side. Okay, apparently, according to the data. So less willing to pay eco fees on waste products perceived to be innocuous to the environment, e.g. keyboards and mice, according to this study. I don't think that's the live version of a mouse, that's the electronic version of a mouse. Willing to pay fees for products thought to be dangerous or damaging, but when they get to the point of being wasted. And really interestingly, it's pretty obvious here, their response depends on how well informed they are about the damaging effect of the waste. So therein lies a real challenge. How prepared would we be to tell them? Right? If they don't know, they don't care. Which brings me on to this second to last slide, just to give Adam some hope. This is from the quality. This is part of the qualitative study that I mentioned. Earlier on, talking to those focus groups. Some of the feedback that has come through from those discussions, and they pretty much reflect what the academic data is telling us. So you can see there, if they're not informed about the problem, they care less about it. But there are consumers, of course, who are much more eco-conscious than others. So we are not dealing with a homogeneous group of people. It will depend on, if you like, how much they know in advance, and also what the communication strategy might be if we were to start eco-modulating products and bringing in EPR, because consumers would respond differently because clearly they don't all have the same level of background knowledge. There's also a question about how trusting they are of what we'll do with the fees as well. Who's going to be managing those fees? How will decisions be made so that they're confident the fees will be used for the purpose described? So there you are. I don't need to read those out for you. You can read as well as I can. But that really just summarises the results of the qualitative study so far, and the quantitative study is to come. And this will help us to fill a gap in knowledge so that EPR doesn't result in unintended consequences. One unintended consequence which I was talking about over coffee was what about the probability or possibility of eco fees being passed down the supply chain by producers to put even more pressure on producers, right? It's just another cost, so we'll pass it on down. That would obviously have potentially an unintended consequence, because it could result in cost cutting in places where already there are large environmental challenges. Thank you very much. The end.